Hello, my dear students. Welcome to the class of 11th English Medium. The subject is Statistics, Chapter 7, Sampling Methods, brought to you by Vitan Sir. Now, before we start with the actual explanation of the chapter, let us revise something which we studied in the very first topic of the first chapter, that is population. Now the population is a set or group of all units or items under study. We call that population. Similarly, sample, a set or group of units or items selected from a population on the basis of some definite criteria is called sample. So population and sample are very important terms which we will need to study this chapter. So we revised them. Production of 10,000 bulbs is a population. Now selecting 100 bulbs out of them for experiment is a sample. All the students of a school is a population, whereas selecting some students from each class of this school is a sample. All the rice in the biryani is a population, whereas selecting some rice grains for testing from that biryani is a sample. So these are certain examples differentiating population and the sample. Now, sample with replacement, uh, let's see what it means. A sample in which a unit is selected from population after replacing the unit selected earlier back in the population. So sampling are done using two methods: sample with replacement, sample without replacement. When we do sample with replacement, that means uh, assuming that there are certain units, there are 10 chits here which I have prepared for you guys. Out of these 10 chits, I am selecting one chit, I am opening it, and I see that okay, there is a number 5 written in that. This 10 chits has the numbers 1 to 10. By opening the first chit, I see that okay, number 5 is there. I put that chit back into the population. Okay, are you getting what I'm trying to say here? That out of the population of 10 chits, I am selecting one chit, I am reading the number written on it, and then I am replacing it back into the stack of chits. That means I have replaced my sample in there, and then I am going to select another chit. I am going to keep on doing this until the number of samples I am supposed to select are selected. For example, out of 10 chits, if I am supposed to select 3 chits, so 3 times I will take a chit, read the number, put it back in, then again select a chit, read a number, put it back in, and repeat the same thing third time. That way, the sample taken is known as sample with replacement. Second is sample without replacement. Now, as the word mentions, a sample in which each unit is selected from population without replacing the unit selected earlier in the population. That means this time, out of the 10 available chits, I am not going to put my chit back in. If I am selecting one chit, I am reading it and putting it away. Then I am selecting another chit, I am reading it and putting it away, and so on. I will select another chit and read it and put it away. This way I will select my 3 chits without replacing the earlier selected chit back into the stack of chits. I hope you guys understood it looking at these figures better. Population inquiry or census survey. So when inquiry is done in which information is collected from each and every unit of the population, we call that a population inquiry or the census survey. Sample inquiry or sample survey means an inquiry in which information is collected from a few units selected from the population. So when we inquire, when we survey the whole of the population, we call that population inquiry or census survey. Sample inquiry or survey means that we don't inquire or survey the whole population, rather we survey or inquire only the some sample selected from the population. We call that sample inquiry or the sample survey. Now we are talking about population, sample, sample with replacement, sample without replacement, population inquiry, sample inquiry, but the chapter name sampling methods. What is sampling? The procedure of selecting a sample from the population is called sampling. So in simple terms, when we select a sample from the population, the method of doing that is called sampling. Let me take an example. Again, let's take an example of 10 different colored chits here. So I'm going to select one chit, then I'm going to select another chit, and this selection is called sampling. So my method of selecting chits, and if you are thinking that what are the number of methods, there are many number of methods for selecting a sample out of the population. In this syllabus we are going to study 3 of them, but I will explain those methods in detail in the next tutorial. In this tutorial I am just going to deal with the some primary things, some initial theories only. So sampling is basically selecting, the method of selecting a sample from the population. Need for sampling. What is the need for sampling? Knowingly or unknowingly, we use sampling on daily basis, checking taste of food, checking homework of students, reading newspapers, etc. Following are the reasons why sometimes we have to use it. That means if I am reading a newspaper, I have the option of just checking the headlines or the read whole newspaper. But then there are certain points or certain situations where you can't use the population inquiry. You have to use the sampling inquiry. It is compulsory. So what are the reasons for that? Number one, the number of units in population are too large. That means, for example, I am a single person, I can't take a population survey of the whole state of Gujarat. I am a single person. The population, the number of units, the number of people residing in Gujarat, around 6 crores, are too large for a single person like me to handle. So I can't do a population survey. So what I can do is I can select 5 or 6,000 people out of this 6 crore from different cities of Gujarat, and then I can survey them using post or email or questionnaires. We have studied these things, how to conduct a survey in the first chapter. So that I can do. So that's why taking a sample is compulsory when the population is very large. Second reason, units of population are spread over a huge geographical area. That means maybe units of population are only 1,000 or 2,000 which I can handle individually, but they are all over the world. And the problem is that I can't do it online or by telephone. I have to meet them personally. Some people live in New York, some people live in London, some people live in Paris, some people live in Delhi, some people live in Lahore, other capitals I don't remember properly. So these are the places all of where I can't reach personally, so I can't survey all of them properly. So I have to take some samples to where I can reach. The units under inquiry are to be destroyed. Example, life of a bulb, accident, capacity of a car, testing curry while making food, etc. A life of a bulb can only be recorded by lighting it for that many hours. That means if I am buying a bulb and the average life is written on the box as 10,000 hours, that means they have tested that bulb for 10,000 hours. But if they test that bulb for 10,000 hours, naturally I will get a diffused bulb. So what they do, they take a batch of 1,000 bulbs, take out 10 samples, and then run those 10 samples for hours and hours, and then take an average of 10,000 hours, and that means the remaining 990 bulbs will run for 10,000 hours is what they are saying. So that's why we have to take a sample. The accident capacity of a car means out of the batch of 100 or 500 or 10,000 cars, they make some of the cars pass through accidents to check how safe the passengers remain. Testing food while making it, it's the classic example of a sample survey. If you are making a curry, you don't eat the whole curry for testing it. You take some spoonfuls of it, test it, and just say okay, the remaining must have the same test, is what you are believing here. So that's the classic example of a sampling. Why we have to take sample? When we have limited availability of resources like time, money, expert manpower, etc., when we don't have enough time to check or survey each and every one of them, when I don't have enough money or I don't have enough people working under me to survey the whole population, naturally I have to go for sampling. Okay, so these are the four reasons why we need to do sampling. The main objective of sampling is to draw an estimate of the values of a population based on values of the sample. That means why we do sampling is because using the values obtained from sample, we estimate, okay, because sample is having this many values, population must also have the same value. For example, if there are 1,000 students in a school and if I take a sample of 100 students, so if I take an average height of these 100 students, I estimate that okay, the 1,000 students must also have the same average height. This is what we do using the sampling. Thus, the measures such as mean, median, standard deviation, mode, whatever, etc., are calculated using the data obtained through sampling are called sample statistics. So, if I am taking a sample and I am calculating these measures for it, I call it sample statistics, or we can just call it statistics. Statistics means measures obtained using the sample data, and similarly, all these measures, mean, median, SD, etc., obtained from the population are called population parameters. Sample statistics and population parameters. So statistics are the measures obtained from sample and parameters are the measures obtained from population. So sample statistics are for sampling, population parameters are measures of population. So average height of 100 students is a statistics and average height of 1,000 students is a parameter. This is what I am trying to say here. Characteristics of an ideal sample. Now we know that to estimate an accurate value for population, we must draw a perfect sample. So following are some of the best characteristics or the ideal characteristics for a sample. So to draw an ideal sample, following characteristics must be kept in mind. It should represent all the characteristics of the population. That means my population has students with healthy body, malnourished body, tall body, short body, younger people, older people. If I have the population with all these characteristics, my sample should also have all these characteristics. If my age group of population ranges from 0 to 100 years, the range of the age group of my sample should also be from 0 to 100 years. Else my sample will not be a good representative of the population, and if I am calculating any value for sample, it will not be estimated for the population accurately. So all the characteristics of the population must be represented in a sample. It should be randomly selected. Now it is very important. A randomly selected sample means that when we are selecting a sample from the population, no single unit should be given more or less importance. Okay, for example, if I am selecting 10 students from a class of 100 students, I should not be a bias towards uh, good students and I should not left out the bad students, or I should not give chance to my favorite students, and I should not uh, do injustice to the students who has done some bad behavior with me. previously. I should give equal importance to all the 100 students, and I should select 10 students without any partiality. That is what it means to select a sample randomly without any partiality. The sample should be selected in the same period of time and conditions. That means if I'm selecting a sample, I can't select a sample today and then two samples tomorrow and then some samples afterwards. Or I should not select a sample, some samples in the winter and some samples in monsoon. No, I should select a sample in the same time period under the identical conditions, so that whole all of the samples have the same chances of happening, or all of the samples represent the population properly. With the passing of time, naturally the situations change, and if I take a sample of different time periods, my assessment, my estimation and my research can be affected adversely. The selection of sample units should be independent. Now here it means that my previous selection of units should not affect my current selection of units. Now how can I give you an example? Because I am a teacher, naturally I will give example of students. If I am selecting 10 students for going on a trip out of the 100 students, and I feel that if the whole group of friends go together, they will not stay under control. So what I will do, I will select different single students from 5 or 6 internal student groups of the students. That means the selection of students affect the selection of other students. For example, A, B, C, D students are friend of each other. So if I am selecting B from the 4 students, I will not select A, C and D. That means selection of B and selection of other students depend on each other. What I should do is, it should be independent. It does not matter whether A, B, C, D are friends or not, or out of the 100 students there are certain internal groups or not. It does not matter. All the selection should be independent. It does not matter what I have selected earlier or what I am going to select next. My selection should be random, and it should not depend on the selection of other students. If I know that two students are friends, if I deliberately try not to select them together, then that is called dependent. It doesn't matter whether they come together or not. That's a true independent selection. So our selection should be independent of any kind of bias. The size of the sample should be adequate and determined in an appropriate manner. The size of the sample should be adequate and it should be determined in an appropriate manner. Now, the further explanation of this last point here, the size of the sample, I have explained in the next slide. Okay, so you will get that explanation, don't worry. Sample size, we have a whole topic for that purpose here. Sample size, the sample size means the number of units selected from the population. Now selecting an appropriate sample size is vital for the purpose of successful sampling. Following points should be considered while selecting this. That means size, the sample size is very important. If I have a population of 1 crore and if I just take a sample of 100, naturally I can't represent my population. But if I have a population of 1 crore and I take a sample of 50 lakhs, what is the meaning of even taking a sample? Okay, so if I have a population of 1 crore, then taking a sample between 50,000 to 1 lakh is considered an ideal sample. But then there are certain conditions. Which conditions are there, we will study them. On these conditions, it depends how big we are going to take a sample. The first condition, the size of the population and scope of study. What is the size of population and how deeply we want to study that population? If we just want to study something like a general characteristic, we can take a smaller sample. But if we want to go deeper, we want to research some unknown parts of that population, then we may need a bigger sample. The variability in the units of population or heterogeneity of population. Now these are two big words for you, variability and heterogeneity. Let me explain this. Variability means changes, or we can say differences, and heterogeneity means something similar. So if a population is uniform, that means the population contains similar kind of people. If I am talking about school students, then the population is a kind of a uniform population, all of them are school students. So there is less variability in the selection process, and if there is a less variability means there are less differences between the units of population, naturally I can select less number of samples. But if I am selecting infants, children, teenagers, college going students, then young jobbers, then not so young jobbers, etc. I have so many different categories in my population. That means there is a huge variability in my population, and the heterogeneity, that means the different classes are there. So if I am taking a sample, I have to take into consideration all of these different classes, and naturally the number of samples to be taken will increase. So variability and heterogeneity if are present, we need a huge sample. But if the population is uniform and identical and all the units of the population are similar, then naturally I don't need to take a bigger sample. Availability of resources like time, money, expert manpower, etc. So if I have more time, more money, more experts, I can take a bigger sample. Similarly, less time, less money, less experts, I have to take a smaller sample. I don't have an option there. And last, expected level of accuracy of sample results. If I need a very accurate, very in-depth, very detailed result, I need to take larger sample. And if the level of accuracy to be expected is normal, simple, not that detailed, I can make do with a smaller sample. So this time we studied about what is sampling, what is population, sample, sampling with replacement, without replacement, population survey, sample survey, and the need for sampling, ideal sample characteristics, and the sample size. Next time, what we are going to study are the methods of sampling, the main content of this chapter. Thank you very much for watching this tutorial. If you liked it, please give a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel if you are new, and turn on the notifications so you will get notified whenever I post the new video for this chapter. Please go through my older videos if you are new to this channel, and in case of any feedbacks, write them in the below comment section. Once again, thank you very much, and next time we will meet again with methods of sampling. Welcome students to Vitan's Unacount Academy. That's better way to success for you. I am Vitan Vora and I teach accountancy, statistics and social science. You can contact me on my cell number 919426310184. Please give a sub to my channel and also check out my other video playlist which you can see on the screen. Thank you, and I will see you in the next video.